Okay, welcome to the Apps for Africa webinar. This is a webinar developed by Nubia Network's development team. So on this webinar is myself and our web developers and app developers. And we'll take you through what it's like to build an app for the African business. The case study and app we'll use is our actual app for Nubia Network called Apps for Africa, and you'll actually see how we designed it front end and back end. So just so you know who we are a digital business development agency, and we work with African entrepreneurs targeting African audiences. We focus on lead generation and sales, and we use primarily digital tools to build a business, apps being one of those tools. So in the team and on this webinar is myself, I'm the founder and director of the business, and Timbalani, Sindiswa, and Lucky, who are the Microsoft certified solutions developers. So we'll take you through four main points of building an app. The first is an app persona, so how to develop the persona for your app and why that's important. The second is the app prototype, and we'll actually show you our prototype. The third is app development. So we'll show you two sections of development, the database side as well as the functionality side. And then we'll take you through some payment discussions on an app, how much you would expect to pay and how payment typically works for app development. So we often get asked to build apps for businesses, and the first thing we always tell entrepreneurs is that an app is not the business. So an app is a tool that you can use to further engage with an audience in the business. So the best way to gauge if you're ready for an app is, have you already sold something commercially online, ideally, or offline? So do you have some online channels like social media, like a website? Even WhatsApp is a digital means of selling. So if you haven't done that before, it will be very difficult to mobilize an app because people haven't heard from you online. They don't know your name online. And as we know, users are quite fussy about which apps they want on their phone, especially if your app would cost anything to download. But even if it's free, people are quite stingy with the space on their phone. So we have to be very conscious about actually using an app when you're not ready for it and your business hasn't had some sort of online traction. So ideally, you should have some online presence, either through social media or your website, before you start building the app. The persona is really important because people are very specific about which apps they have on their phone. So think of yourself. Which apps do you have? Most likely social media, WhatsApp, your banking apps, and then possibly a rideshare app like Uber, Lyft, or Taxify. And then some other apps that really are specific to you and your needs. And for you to keep that app on your phone, it really has to speak to some sort of functionality or value that you can't get from anywhere else, through the website, through the social media page of that service provider. So there's a lot to think about when developing an app. And we developed this persona first of who would be using the app, so we can understand how we can engage with them through the app. So this is a Nubia Network persona. It's male and female, aged 24 to 34, located in sub-Saharan Africa and interested in entrepreneurship. So we found that this subset audience was very interested in building apps for their business. And so we built an app to get them more informed about building apps. And for most of these entrepreneurs, they have some sort of income that doesn't come from the business itself. So they either need some funding for the app or they need some assistance in how to make the app. And once we got all that information, we decided to put our app together to really help that persona and assist them with developing their app. Okay, so now I'll take you through the prototype and what that means. And Cindy will describe that for you.
Okay, so a prototype is a layout of what your app will look like. So this is a basic drawing or a digital platform. So what we did for our app, we firstly did the sketch or paper prototype, which is we did most basic sketches of what we want on our app. And then we went for the digital prototype, which uses a software on on your PC. So I will take you through the digital prototyping part of it. So what you see on your screen is the splash screen. So what we did here is just adding the background picture and the logo of the company. So it depends on the individual. So after the splash screen has loaded, this is what pops up, the login. The login tells the details of the user, and you can also, depends on what you want to log in with, it's the Facebook page, your Facebook or your Google account. If you are not an existing user, you can use the register form to fill in your details so that you can be registered to our app. So this is what the register form looks like. It's your name, your username, your email address, and your password. So once you sign up, it takes you to the initial page of the app, which is the platform where you get to upload your profile and where other users get to vote for your profile.
Okay, thank you, Cindy. So this part is really important because when you're working with developers, sometimes things get lost in translation. So what they can do versus what you want. And when you're starting with them, the very first point of call is to make a prototype of the app so that you have an understanding of what the app looks like. And at this stage, you can talk to them about any design changes you might need, some functionality. So perhaps you're not seeing functionality on there that you would like to add, but they might think that it's not necessary, or they would add some more functionality than you would like. So this point is very, very important. And when you are speaking to app developers and you have already started engaging with them, always ask them to show you a prototype before they actually start coding so that you know what to expect once the app does become live. So when developers do this for you, they can actually send you this. It's usually a PDF document that you can read on your phone, and it might function like a real app where the buttons do link to the next screen. So this is a nice point to actually gauge that the developers know how to build your app and they understand the flow of the screens that you want and the functionality of your app. Okay, so after you've done the prototype, then we would go on app development. And in this case, there's two different sections when it comes to app development. So the first section is on the back end. So the functionality that the screens flow from one to the other and it makes logical sense. The second part of backend development is CMS, or essentially building a database, a content management system. So when you have an app, you generally are using it to engage directly with your audience or with the users. And you need the database of the users either because they're buying something from your app, so you have an e-commerce platform on the app, or you're engaging with them directly through some sort of chat or connect, or you need some sort of contact detail with them, either the email or a number, so that when you're sharing this information with them, they have this information. So we'll take you through how we actually build both of these back-end sites. So Timbalani will, Lucky will start on the back-end development. So Lucky, you can go there.
Okay, when you download our app, the first screen that you're going to see when you're using it, it's going to be the splash screen. The splash screen contains of the company logo, which will appear for only 3 seconds. That's how we designed it. So definitely after 3 seconds, the login screen is going to pop up, of which it contains the username text box and the password text box with the login and the Facebook login and the Google login. So on this screen, you can be able to register. If it's not your first time, then if it's your first time, then you have to register, but you can do as well. So when you click on register, this screen is going to pop up. If ever it's your first time using this app, you'll be required to type in your username, email address, password, and confirm the password. And once they, which will be our first screen. So in our first screen, we have our profile pic up there. You'll be able to upload your own profile pic of your own choice, and you can also sign out on this link. We also have a button called the upload profile button and the vote button. So on this button, you'll be able to select your profile, your company profile, and upload it so that people can be able to vote for your company, so that you can be able to win the app that we're trying to. So when you click on the vote, it will populate the list of all the people that uploaded their company profiles. And from there, you can be able to vote for whichever company that you think deserves to be built in app. Basically, that's it.
Thank you, Lucky. So thank you for taking us through that. So Lucky was showing you what our app looks like and what the front end development is, but also how the functionality works between the different screens. Once we worked on that, as Lucky said, in our app, you can upload your profile and then have users vote for you. So of course, we need to keep a running list of which profiles are uploaded, how many votes go per profile. And for that, we need a database. So we call that a CMS system, a content management system. And in the backend, we code a database. So Timbalani will take us through how to do that. Okay, stop share. So Timbalani, can you take us through the database building?
Yes. Okay. So basically what every app needs is a database. So a database in this case is something that would house, you see how you file all your documentation in one place? Well, this is the one place whereby each and every data that we have for each and every user would be stored. So to tell us what type of sign-in method you use, whether it's signed in using your Google account or your Facebook account, it will then list all the users that are registered onto our app. It will tell you when you registered. It will tell you what providers it has. Does it have your email or in your cell phone? It will tell us what you have. They identify you. It should not be your username or your email address. Then here is when it will tell you how many times you've signed in on the app and when you signed in. So we can actually keep track of how users use our app and how often do they log in and out of the app, right? Then from there, we'll just develop a special user ID for each user, of which this user ID, we can then use it to reset password or to just then disable an account. So if we feel like we need to disable your account for certain reasons, that's when we can still do it. And this can be done through the whole database, because then we then house each and every user that's on our system and keep track of what they're doing. Thank you.
Cool, thank you for that, Timbalani. Cool, so we'll go back onto our presentation and we'll just take you through after we've done app development, what sort of discussions you can have regarding the actual costing of the app, right? So we've taken you through the persona, knowing who you're developing the app for, then making a prototype, so understanding what the actual app will look like, how it will function. So basically a soft copy of the app before we start coding. When we start coding, there's two different ends to it. So we generally have two different app development teams, one on the CMS, which is a database, and one on the actual backend functionality. They obviously work together, but it's two separate functions. And then it starts with how much do apps actually cost, which is, I think, everyone's famous or favorite question. Okay, cool. So there's three types of apps that you can build. The first is a web-based app. So that's actually what our app will look like. This isn't available on Play Store or iStore. So this is an app that follows through a website link and it downloads as a file log on your actual app. So it looks like an app, it functions like an app, but essentially It's a website packaged as an app. So it has app functionality, like you've seen, it's been built in the back end as an app, but it doesn't go through any store. So you can download it on any device, but essentially it is a packaged website looking like an app. The benefit is that it's cost effective, so it's probably your cheapest option when you're building apps. It's great if it's your first app. So if you have a smaller budget and you really want to test how apps work and test your market and test the app itself, this is a great place to start, because you can also use this the back end to upscale to one of the other apps that we'll talk about. And you won't have any licensing and upgrade issues. So we'll talk about the other platforms. When you do upload your app onto Play Store and iStore, when they do any backend upgrades or Apple or Google updates their backend, then we also need to update the app, and that can sometimes cause functionality issues with an app. The drawback with having a web-based app is that you can't get push notifications, which probably for the users is an advantage. But if you're building the app, it's difficult then to have push notifications through a web-based app. The second option, which is the midway option, is hybrid app. So this can only function on Play Store. This won't be available on iStore. It's, again, more expensive because then you need licensed developers who are able to upload onto Play Store, which is not the problem essentially. But then you have more licensing issues. You do have some cross-checking through Play Store before you upload your app. This can then make the app take a longer time to develop. It will cost more, but the benefit then is, other than the web-based app here, you can have push notifications on your app, and it functions like apps that you've probably been using before. The drawback is that it can take longer. It does cost more, obviously, and then when there's issues on the back end that developers can't control, that can then also affect the functionality of your app. And then the premium app would be native. So this app can cost you anywhere over $20,000 US or in that range, and that's your most expensive app. But this app you can house on Play Store, on iStore, and it also has the same implications as hybrid. So they need to be listed developers, and they need to have some licensing to be on those stores. When those stores do have any upgrades, then the app also needs to upgrade to feature into that. So again, that can mean that it takes longer to build the app. You can have some issues with upgrading of software between either the host, the Play Store, the iStore itself, or when you host or when you upgrade your software. So it's the most expensive, but it's available on all platforms. And you can also have push notifications on a native app. So these are the sort of benchmarks you'd expect to pay, and this is the different prices that you can have for each type of app. Okay, so let's just go through the costing. So what we'd say is generally developers are asked to have about 10% upfront. So that's because they have to get some software involved, the team involved. They already start working on the prototype of your app very, very soon once they know your project is live. And for that, we suggest to pay about a 10% deposit, and that's generally what developers or agencies will charge you. So we've costed here what it would look like possibly for a hybrid app. So this is your midway app. The total cost is about $15,000 US, and this is how we would break it down. So generally, developers or agencies don't break it down into every phase. But what I would suggest you do if you're building an app for your business and this is the budget you're working on, I would do payments on certain milestones. So for example, once you've seen the persona development, then you can release a payment. And once they've gone through certain phases that you need for your app, then you can release payments accordingly. Some developers may ask you to group payments. So for example, for phase 2 and phase 3, that's one payment. But always make sure that you're paying with a milestone, so you know what you're getting at that stage for that cost and when the deliverable date is. Often developers don't deliver on time just because we have a lot of back-end issues that we might not control, some we might control. We also work in teams, and it's very seldom that we'll deliver on time every single time. So if they do not deliver on this date, then withhold your payment for that milestone until they do deliver. So make sure the payment that you give them is made on a certain objective that you understand now for your app, and a certain date. Okay, if the date is way out, so if they're 2 months behind, that's a problem, and I would really try and have an engagement with them about why it's taking that long. And because you haven't paid them the rest hopefully yet, you can ask them, why things are taking so long and how you can help in speeding up the development. And if they do the work on time, then you release payment accordingly. So I think this is a good plan to have with your developers in terms of what you're doing at which phase of the app, and which payments to release at which time. Also, it's really important to know the timing of the app. So for the developers to have a set time as well as for yourself. Okay, so that was our webinar. It was short and sweet, I think. And thank you to the developers for sitting on the call and taking us through it. If you have any more questions, you can contact us on email, so at info@nubenetwork.com. You can check out our website or contact us through social media. Thank you.